Welcome back to Bookish Dives.
Yes.
For anyone tuning in for the first time, this is our little corner of the podcast world where we take a really interesting book
Right.
and we do a deep dive into its ideas and, its key takeaways, practical stuff, stuff you can actually use.
Yeah.
We've done a couple of these deep dives now.
We have.
And today we're turning our attention to a book.
Yes.
That's been making some waves.
It has.
Mel Robbins' The Let Them Theory.
A life-changing tool.
That millions of people can't stop talking about.
That's the subtitle.
That's the subtitle.
It's very important.
All right, so we've immersed ourselves in Robbins' work.
Neatly.
And at its heart is this very powerful concept that so much of our energy, our mental energy, is going towards things that we really
can't control. Yeah.
And particularly what other people...
What they're doing, what they're saying.
Yeah, are doing, saying, and thinking.
What they're thinking. Absolutely.
So our goal today is to really break down this let them theory.
Yes.
And it's crucial.
That's all they have.
Let me.
Yeah.
And see how you can actually apply these ideas to
improve,
to feel more in charge.
Yes.
And improve your relationships and your overall well-being.
And absolutely.
So it's interesting to look back at how Robbins even arrived at these concepts. I mean, a lot of people probably know her from the 5-second rule.
Yes.
And, that came about during a really, really challenging time in her life.
Absolutely.
Dealing with debt. And
a lot of debt and marital issues. Yeah. And
what's really kind of cool is she wasn't initially planning to share it with anybody.
Not at all.
The 5-second rule.
Yeah.
That simple idea of counting down
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
To push yourself to take action.
Yeah.
It was born out of her own necessity in her own life to overcome inertia and anxiety. Yeah. And it really just highlights that.
Yeah.
I think fundamental aspect of human psychology is sometimes we just need
that little push.
That
simple mechanism.
To get us over that.
The hump.
The overthinking. And it wasn't some big, it wasn't like a big launch or some campaign that brought her ideas to a broader audience.
Yeah.
It was actually just a recommendation. To speak about career change at a small event in San Francisco.
If you can believe it.
Which I think really underscores how powerful ideas
they can spread
organically when they resonate
with people.
Yeah. And so from that initial small platform, it clearly struck a chord. People started using it for everything from,
big transitions.
Big life transitions, like changing careers or tackling weight loss.
Right.
To, some really
tough challenges.
Difficult stuff. Yeah. Like overcoming addiction.
Yes.
And even preventing suicide.
Incredible.
Which is just wild.
Yeah.
It speaks to that, the universality of feeling stuck and needing a way to kind of break through it. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And from that TEDx talk, that really gained traction.
It did.
To speaking engagements all over the place, including some,
some less glamorous places.
Less glamorous venues like bars.
Bars and church basements.
Right. Her message clearly
connected. Yeah.
And now, with the let them theory, she's delving into an even more profound aspect of our lives. Yeah. Our interactions with others.
Yes.
And how we navigate their influence. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we've kind of laid the groundwork.
We have.
Today, we're going to really dig into the let them theory. Explore its practical applications across various aspects of your life, and hopefully give you some insights
to feel less overwhelmed.
Yeah, more in control.
I love it.
All right, so let's dive right into the core of this. The let them theory itself.
Okay.
What is the fundamental principle at play here?
So, at its heart, the let them theory is a conscious decision to redirect your limited time and energy away from things that you simply cannot influence.
Right.
And Robbins emphasizes that a significant portion of this involves detaching from what other people say, think, and do.
Think and do.
Think about the mental space that we often dedicate to trying to figure out what someone meant by a comment.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Or worrying about someone's opinion of us.
Yeah.
That's the energy that Let Them aims to reclaim.
She uses a very relatable story to illustrate this.
She does.
The experience with her son, Oakley.
Oakley, her son.
And his prom preparations.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
So that anecdote perfectly captures that
impulse.
That impulse many of us have.
To micromanage.
To micromanage
every situation.
Situations, even when it's ultimately unnecessary.
Yes.
And adds to our own stress.
Yeah.
So she had already navigated the complexities of her daughter's proms.
Right.
And assumed, with the son it would be smoother.
Yeah, simpler.
Yeah.
Simpler.
Boys, they don't care. They don't care.
Just get a tux.
Just show up.
You're good to go.
You're good.
But even with the big things sorted.
Right.
Those smaller details.
The details.
Like the corsage. And whether or not they have a
solid dinner reservation.
For
a large group of teenagers.
Triggered that urge.
That urge to step in.
Yeah.
To make sure everything was perfect.
And it's so relatable.
Isn't it?
The specific corsage her son wasn't thrilled about.
Not thrilled about, no.
A large group of teenagers in the rain heading to this
tiny taco place.
Before prom.
I
mean, I think a lot of parents can relate.
I think so.
To this.
Absolutely.
And she points out this deep-seated urge to control often comes from
a primal place.
Fear. Right.
Yeah.
Fear
of being excluded.
Fear of not being liked.
Not being liked, yeah.
Fear that things
will unravel.
If we're not actively...
If we don't keep them on track.
Keeping them on track.
Absolutely.
And it really is about our need for
safety.
A sense of safety.
Sense of predictability.
Predictability in a world that often feels so chaotic.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
We sense things might be going sideways.
Yeah.
And we want to...
steer them back on clear.
Totally.
Right. Yeah.
So the Let Them theory offers...
a different approach.
More
liberating approach.
Yeah.
And she uses this really compelling seesaw analogy to kind of visualize this power dynamic.
Yeah.
And so when you are constantly trying to control
the thoughts and actions of others,
you're essentially adding weight.
To
their side
of
the seesaw.
And consequently, your side
becomes burdened.
Gets weighed down.
With
negative thoughts.
Anxieties,
frustrations. Right. We become fixated on their behavior.
Yeah.
And we get pulled down. By our own emotional responses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, when you consciously choose to say, let them hold their opinions. Let them make their own choices.
Okay.
Even if you disagree.
Yeah.
It's like stepping off
that heavy weight.
On your side
of the seesaw.
So the balance starts to shift.
You
start to free yourself from this mental and emotional burden of trying to manage them. And I think about, even...
the neurological impact.
Of this.
Yes.
Constantly.
When you're constantly focused on what others think.
Yeah.
That can actually activate...
our threat response.
Yeah.
So let them
is
like consciously down-regulating that system.
And
freeing up mental bandwidth.
For your own goals.
Your own
well-being.
Exactly.
So it's not about
you
thinking you're superior to other people, right?
Not at all.
This feels like a really important
I think so.
distinction
to make. Yeah.
Robbins is very clear.
You're not better.
Let them is not about
more enlightened.
Positioning yourself as better or more enlightened than others.
You're just giving people space.
You're giving people space.
They'll live their lives.
To live their lives, make their decisions.
And you're reclaiming space.
For
yourself.
To refocus on
your
own well-being. And the things that you can influence.
So it's about restoring balance.
Restoring a healthy balance.
Yeah. So let them is this initial step to reclaiming that control.
Yeah.
But as we mentioned at the beginning, there's
a second component.
Crucial component to this theory.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So Let them is only
half of the equation.
one half of the equation.
Yeah.
The second and equally vital step
Yes.
is let me.
Let.
Right. And this is shifting that focus.
Back to yourself.
Back to yourself.
Back to your own role.
To your role.
Your own actions.
And your actions.
Within a situation.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And she uses another
personal story.
Relatable story.
Very relatable.
Yeah.
Her girlfriend's weekend trip.
Her girlfriend's weekend trip.
Yeah.
To illustrate this power of let me.
Yeah.
So what happens in this story?
So she's feeling a pang of exclusion.
After seeing her friend's fun weekend getaway documented on social media.
Social media, yeah.
Her initial reaction is to internalize it.
Yeah.
Question what she might have done wrong.
Yeah, did I do something wrong?
Try to maybe subtly influence
the future plans. Yeah.
But after consciously applying, let them.
Okay.
Acknowledging that they're free to plan trips.
With whoever they choose.
Right. She created the mental space to engage in some
self-reflection?
Honest self-reflection.
And that's where
the let me comes in.
The let me comes in.
She recognized her own lack of initiative.
Okay.
In actively nurturing those friendships.
I see.
So she's like, let me stop expecting other people to always extend the invitation. Let me take greater responsibility for
cultivating the friendships that I value.
Yeah. Let me be more proactive about reaching out and suggesting get-togethers.
So it was going from passive to active.
Right. Yeah.
Feeling left out.
Yeah.
To taking ownership.
Of
your social connections.
Of her social connections.
And this highlights the importance.
The importance of not just letting go.
Yeah.
Of the need to control others.
Right.
But taking ownership of our own desires and the action.
To fulfill them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's about releasing our grip.
Yeah.
On trying to control others. Mm-hmm. But it's also about taking responsibility. For our own needs.
Yes.
And desires.
Your needs and your desires.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So let me
is about accountability.
Assuming accountability for what you want in your life. Yeah.
Rather than simply blaming
others. For what you perceive as lacking or the negative emotions.
That you might be experiencing.
You're experiencing, absolutely.
So let them. To release. That need to control external factors.
Yes.
Let me.
To
empower us to focus on
our
own actions.
Your own actions, yep.
And responsibilities.
Your responsibility, yeah. So how can we apply this to something
like stress?
As universal as
stress.
Stress in our daily lives.
Robbins explains that while our body's initial stress response is often automatic,
right?
That surge of adrenaline, feeling of being on edge when something stressful occurs,
happens.
We can
have the power.
Exert control over our subsequent reaction to it.
Okay.
It's that reaction.
So she introduces this analogy of an on-off switch for stress.
On-off switch.
Right.
Yes.
Let them
act like that initial switch.
The
moment you consciously say let them.
Okay.
When you're faced with a stressful situation, whether it's traffic, a demanding email,
a work deadline,
a looming deadline,
anything,
you're essentially signaling to your brain that it's okay to detach emotionally.
Okay.
That this particular situation might not warrant
an elevated stress response.
Okay. You're consciously interrupting the automatic escalation of anxiety.
And the amygdala.
Other brains,
alarm system
is often on high alert. When we feel
a lack of control.
Yeah. So let them can help signal to the amygdala.
To signal to it that this perceived threat
right.
is not something we need to constantly
fight or flee from.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So let them helps us initially detach
the immediate stressor. Yeah.
What's the role of let me in this?
Following that mental declaration of let them.
Robbins suggests immediately following it with let me. And then consciously taking a deep breath.
That's interesting.
So that act of breathing is the let me in action.
I see.
It's a deliberate choice.
To reset.
To pause. To bring your awareness to your physical self.
Yeah.
And to actively reset your physiological stress response.
And this is something that
Dr. Aditi Nerurkar, who Robbins interviewed, confirms that there are significant scientific benefits
of deep breathing,
of deep diaphragmatic breathing,
and lowering stress levels.
Yes, by stimulating the vagus nerve.
The vagus nerve.
Which helps regulate our nervous system.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's a two-step process.
Two-step process.
Let them to initiate
mental detachment.
Mental detachment.
Yeah.
Followed by let me and a deep breath.
A deep breath.
To help our body
catch up and de-escalate.
Catch up and de-escalate.
Yeah.
Okay.
So by consciously saying, let me, and focusing on your breath, you're reasserting a sense of internal control.
I like that.
You're no longer just reacting.
Okay.
Automatic.
It's to the stressful trigger.
To the stressful trigger.
Right.
You're making an intentional choice.
About how you're going to respond.
About how you're going to respond.
Focusing on the one thing you can control.
The one thing you can control in that moment.
Yeah.
Your reaction.
Your reaction.
Rather than the external circumstances you cannot.
Which makes a lot of sense.
It does.
So we feel...
Especially when you feel overwhelmed by stress.
Overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So let's shift gears a little bit. Another common...
source of stress
and frustration.
Is careers.
Careers. Absolutely.
How does the let them theory offer guidance when you're
navigating career frustrations?
Navigating career frustration.
Such as like feeling overlooked for a promotion.
Yeah.
Right.
This is a really resonant scenario.
It is.
I think for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Feeling like
you've put in the work.
You've earned a promotion.
You deserve this.
You put in the hard work.
And you're not seeing that.
And you're seeing no tangible movement. Can be incredibly demoralizing.
So demoralizing.
Robbins' advice here is pretty direct.
Okay.
Let them string you along.
Oh.
She acknowledges.
I was going to say that's tough.
It's tough, but she acknowledges the validity of the feelings.
Yeah.
The frustration, the disappointment.
The anger.
Yeah. That can arise in these situations.
It feels counterintuitive.
It does.
To just accept that.
It can feel counterintuitive to just accept that inaction.
Yeah.
But the crucial element here is the let me that follows.
Okay, let me.
So she poses a very important question. Ultimately, who is truly responsible for the trajectory of your career?
Wow.
The answer, of course, is you.
You.
So while you cannot directly control your boss's decisions, the company's timelines,
the factors,
the myriad of factors that go into these promotion decisions, that's the let them part.
The let them.
You retain complete control over
your actions,
your choices.
So
rather than getting stuck
in this cycle
of fixating on the perceived injustice
of
the current situation
and feeling powerless,
the focus shifts
to taking responsibility,
to proactively taking responsibility for exploring and pursuing better opportunities.
It's easy to stay in a job.
It is.
That's making you miserable.
It is.
Especially if
you've got financial obligations or...
Financial obligations.
You've been there a long time.
Yeah. And you're good at it.
You're comfortable.
Yeah. But she emphasizes. You are never truly trapped. In a job that's making you feel...
Undervalued.
Unseen. Demoralized.
Yeah.
So you can let them... string you along. But you can also let me... And take action.
Start updating your resume. Start engaging in networking.
Going on interviews. Taking control of your professional future. So remaining in a job... That's consistently making you miserable... Inadvertently puts...
Your boss or the company.
Yeah, your boss.
The company in control.
The overall happiness and well-being.
Of your happiness.
Whereas actively seeking new horizons... Firmly puts you...
Back in the driver's
seat.
Yeah.
Of your career journey.
All right, so let's consider...
Yeah.